Hey, what's going on? What's happening? What's up? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. Right here live in effect. Um, I felt that this was very compelling for me to really talk about this subject right here. Um, so as lately, I haven't been really I haven't been really as active on social media like that. So um I don't I haven't been keeping up with a lot of things that's been going on, but I do know that there was some things that was taking place today as far as Facebook shut down or whatever and the, Instagram. So it had something to do with Mark Zuckerberg, and he got exposed by a whistleblower or somebody. So yeah, so Facebook was shut down all day. But anyways, I haven't been really keeping up with a lot of things that's been going on. Peace and Tavo, peace, brother Umi, peace to you guys in the chat. Thank y'all for coming through. So yeah, I think that this topic is deserves some type of contextualization and um it needs to have a deep conversation, a deep discussion, and this is regarding to Black women, mental health, and how many of us gravitate to spirituality and religion as a way to cope with our mental problems on a consistent basis. And this whole concept about the strong Black woman and things of that nature. Um, I think for me, it's very personal. It's very personal because lately been down and out. I've been down and out. I've been feeling depressed. Um Not because just work, is just overall just a lot of things that's going on. And for me, doing platforms and things like that, or watching one of my favorite channel, which is Law and Order, that kind of just helps me to like keep my mind off other things. Um but it just only does a little bit for me. So I figured by me coming on here, I would be able to talk about these things. I could be able to express this from a point of view as a Black female myself. And I can relate to things that may bother other women. Now, there's certain things I may not relate to other Black women on, but there are things that I can't relate on as being a Black woman. And this go beyond looks, beauties, and relationship. It goes a lot deep. So I have some sources here tonight that's going to help me, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this whole thing about mental health. I got to talk about this, especially in our community, especially dealing with us Black women. So a lot of us, we try to put on the facade that we're strong and that everything's going to be okay and there's nothing to worry about. Nobody is going to nobody can't nobody take away your joy, this thing other. And it's nothing wrong with being able to learn how to get through problems and stuff like that, but when you put on that facade, it eats you up on the inside. It just does. It sets you back because you're not getting help for it. So this is why you may find women who have nervous breakdowns and anxiety attacks. You got women who just totally shut down, mean they don't say nothing at all. They don't want nobody to be bothered with them. They just kind of just remove themselves from everybody. And then, but it's detrimental, especially when these women have children and they going through these episodes and they're raising these kids, and these kids grow up with mothers who have all these anger and this mental disorder, mental health crisis going on, and they're not understanding why my mother coming off like this. What's wrong with her? They're not understanding what's going on. So it's very important that for Black women, especially, there should be some form of healing process taking place. There should be more seminars. There should be more Black women psychiatrists that can reach out to various women and talk to them, because it's not just a race thing, okay? It's more so a culture thing. It's more so somebody that can relate to you. So if you can get a therapist that can relate to you and that can understand your problem and what you're going through as a woman, then that makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to have therapy with other group of women, or with a therapist who is a woman herself and Black, and that has gone through the similar situation, that could relate and understand and give you better solutions, versus talking to somebody don't have who have not experienced some of the things that you have experienced, especially if something dealing with trauma. And that's another thing I'm gonna talk about: childhood trauma. Okay, so I'm gonna get into that as well. But yeah, if you come across a therapist that can't relate to your problems, or come across anybody, then it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to be able to get the help that you need. So a lot of times, what I know is you can talk to somebody that can relate to you, that can understand you, and that knows what it's like to go through certain things. So either somebody from your own race, your own community, somebody that's the same gender as you, they can understand you better. All right. So again, this is not, and I want to say this to get on the record, because I know there's going to be those who want to put out the little backlashes and things like that. This is not to create dichotomy amongst sex or amongst gender or anything like that. It's not to take away or say that men don't have their own problems, or that men don't have their own issues, but this is to help address the issue that's going on with the sisters, Black women. So it has to be talked about. Okay. So again, reason why I'm doing it, because I'm a Black woman, and I have to be open about what's going on with me as a Black woman. All right. So it's not, again, to take away what the Black man's going through or the Black community is going through, but we're talking about the women are being the head of the community, right? Or say that the woman is the most important part of the community, then you got to look at the mental health of the woman. That's what you got to look at. So if she's the primary educator, the first teacher, right? And no nation rise above the woman, according to Elijah Muhammad, then you got to look at that matriarch and make sure that matriarch is okay mentally, and emotionally, because you don't know what she might be going through internally. You don't know what she might be dealing with on a consistent basis. Okay. So there's things that a lot of women not going to be able to open and talk about, especially to their male partners, because sometimes the male can be very ignorant and not very understanding, or not trying to compromise what that woman's going through. But it's funny, he expect for the woman to compromise with him, but he doesn't want to compromise with his woman. And that's one of the reasons why women don't talk candidly about what they're going through or what they have to deal with, because again, you got the backlashes, you got the the disrespect. Oh my goodness, the antagonism is all over there. So yeah, so for me, I want to go ahead and get started on this. So I want to go ahead and just show a few articles, okay? Um, And one of the articles just came out in September last month, September 30th. Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Thank you guys in the chat. So right here, this is called Black Mental Health and the Power of Ritual. So it said, even in the midst of suffering, the Black spirit can't be silent. And it goes on to say, white supremacy has many faces and uses many tools. It led to the creation of the idea of race and the othering, subjugations, enslavement, and colonization of an entire continent of people. There is no corner of the earth that it hasn't touched. Underlying it all is the message that one way is the right way and one type of person is the right type of person. The United States may have been founded on the idea of religious freedom for the colonists like the Quakers, Shakers, Puritans, and Protestants who wanted to believe and practice differently from what the monarchy dictated. Unfortunately, that so-called freedom was carried out at the expenses of the liberty of others, but all was not lost. Vehement attempts were made to strip Black people of our language, religion, cultural customs. Still, we ultimately never lost the religious and spiritual practices that kept us connected to our source. These practices fed and protected the Black community throughout the hardships we faced, even when they had to be hidden, adapted, and synchronized with the religion of the oppressors. This adaptation is evident today in the flexibility of Black spiritual system and how we've used them to get through some of the most trying times in our history. Before wellness and mental health entered the stage, there was always the Black church providing a North Star in dark times. All right, so this comes from healthline.com. And I want to talk real quick about spirituality and religion. Now, we all have disagreements about certain people's spiritual belief and religious belief, okay? Because we have studied historical informations regarding to these things. And then there are those who are just very egotistical and arrogant. So they have to use antagonism to convey a point. Now, some of those points they make may be true, but they don't understand the underlying of it. I seen a post the other day is why do people feel bothered by other people's spirituality and religious belief? And that's a good question. Now, there are those who try to impose their religious ideology on people because they feel that it's their way. Their way works for everybody. All right. Then again, there are those who just want to be antagonists. But for many of us women, especially, we use these religious belief and spirituality just to find a way to heal. That's our way of coping. That's a way of us being able to find hope in the midst of our crisis, whatever we're going through. So and I'm going to speak from the woman perspective, okay? For many of us women, if we do not gravitate towards something or believe in something like spirituality or religious or anything that constitute the idea of God, if we don't believe in something, then guess what? A lot of us will commit suicide. A lot of us will commit suicide, whether it be through injecting needles, whether it be through guns, or whether it be through the social lifestyle, meaning overly consuming alcohol, popping pills, whatever. If we don't if we don't find something to have hope in, then imagine what would happen. Imagine what would happen. If you ain't got nothing to find hope in, imagine what would happen. And so to those, especially those who are atheists, again, I'm not knocking the atheists for having their arguments. They made some good points, but I want y'all to think about this. Okay, so now you take away the religion or take away spirituality. What type of substitute would you have? How would you go about substituting these things? What ways would you have for people to deal with their mental health crisis? What type of alternatives would you give? And you can say science. Science is cool, but science is dealing with a lot of scholarship. It deals with a lot of academia, and not a lot of people understand science very well. So if you use science, how do you go about making it to where people can be able to find something in science where they can cope mentally, where they can cope with their problems, their issues, especially these women? Because women, we use a lot of self-help guide. So when we read materials, most of the time we look for materials that are self-help or dealing with some type of spirituality. That's what we're looking for. So now if you was to take that away because of the concept of God being used, or religion, ideology, or whatever, what other alternatives is there to put into place? If you was to take away meditation, which most women like to do, most of them like to meditate. There are those who like to, and peace to Brother Chauncey. There are those who like to practice yoga, do some type of customary diet. I mean, now if you take away the spiritual component and take away meditation, what alternatives do they have? What other hope do they have? Because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. You take away a lot of that stuff, they're gonna end up being suicidal. If you stop a woman from getting some type of self-help or dealing with some type of spirituality, she's gonna end up being suicidal. And how do I know this? Because I have seen some emotional breakdowns, and especially come from the conscious community. You see sisters out here breaking down emotionally, they losing their minds. Because you got people over here that's saying, your spirituality is blah, 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 blah. Your religion is blah, 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 blah. And don't give any type of alternatives. Again, you can it's one thing to do intellectual debates and you have sources provided for it. It's one thing. There's nothing wrong with intellectual debates. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being very informative. And peace to Brother Vayasa Gullah. It's nothing wrong with being very informative. It's nothing wrong with giving accurate information. It's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't have the alternative that's going to help a person who may be going through mental crisis, then what good are you really doing? What good are you really doing? Nothing. So people don't use, and then those who practice religion, they don't use religion in the way that it is taught in the holy books, quote unquote. Some of them take some information from religion and they synchronize those. information. What do I mean by synchronizing? Meaning that they take some of the stuff they may learn from the Quran and they might and blend it in with the Yoruba tradition or the Taoism or any type of, or Hinduism or any other type of spiritual practices, because that's the way to help them balance. It's a way to help them to stay balanced. I remember a guy that was in our group. Okay. He was a part of our research team. And I'm not going to mention this person's name, but he was part of Team Osiris at one point. And he said something that I thought that was just very I thought he went overboard with it. He was talking about how people practice Abrahamic religion and how can't you practice Abrahamic religion and be African centered or something in that nature. And I said, well, look, at once upon a time, a lot of our ancestors that was brought here to this country, they practiced an Abrahamic religion. A lot of them were Muslims. And you had those who were Christian. But would you dare question those ancestors by saying that you're anti-African because you're practicing Abrahamic religion? Would you dare say that to the ancestors? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't fish your lips to say that to those people, because that's what that is, especially Islam, that became a part of their culture. Now we don't have to agree with the dogma. We don't have to agree with the text or some that's written in the hadith, in the surahs and all of that. We don't have to agree with it. But they didn't look at it from the Quran and the hadith point of view. They looked at it from a cultural concept. So they took the cultural concept of Islam and brought it to their community, into their tradition, into their villages. So would you dare look at somebody that's from the time period and tell them that you're anti-African because you're practicing this Abraham religion? No, you wouldn't. And so that was pretty disrespectful. It was pretty disrespectful. I thought it was disrespectful, and I called the person out on it. I called the person out because I felt like that's just going a little too far. I mean, you don't have to agree, but you can't just call somebody anti-African because of what religion they practice. Because everybody's not going to practice the same thing. Even the earliest people who were Pan-Africanists, a lot of them were Christians. A lot of them practiced Christianity. So it was these people, these Black Christians, that created the foundation, that opened up the doors for people like us today to be comfortable and to be proud to say that we're Black and we're African centered, or we're Afrocentrists, or we're Black nationalists, whatever. They opened up, they created those platforms, they made it safe for us. They were radical people too. And they did that because of the time period they were in, which was the segregation, which was the racism, which was they could not go to certain churches and preach. They could not sit in certain congregations. So they created their own churches and created their own principles. And when they had their own principles, they incorporate into the Christianity doctrine or any religious doctrine, just so the people can be comfortable with being themselves. They can be comfortable with practicing the religion of their oppressors. So a lot of our people have always synchronized spirituality and religious ideology. They done that. Okay? So at the end of the day, what you're saying is not right. And then we got others that say, oh, those who choose to be atheists are anti-African. I mean, who are you to say that? Everybody don't have to believe in the same thing. Everybody don't have to practice the same thing. Okay? Now, there's some information that can be corrected. There's some information that people can learn, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to be able to acquire those knowledge and get those proper information and be able to seek out more. It's up to them. But you cannot take away they Africanness because you saying that they're anti-African. At the end of the day, that doesn't take away who they are. That doesn't take away where their ancestors come from. Now, they may have a mindset that might be anti-African. Some do. But at the end of the day, they still are who they are. They still are part of that large group of people that was brought into the Atlantic against their own will. Okay? So that's basically this whole ego starvation that is going on. It's more so people want to be the star of the show and be the center of the attention. And that's not, I mean, that's not going to do it any good. It's not going to help. Again, you dealing with people who have mental crisis and they go about their own way to cope with those mental crises. As long as they're not doing anything that's detrimental and that's putting somebody in harm's way or putting themselves in harm's way or putting other people in or misleading people in a way that's going to destroy their livelihood, then those people have the right to get into any type of spiritual system or any type of religious system. Okay? But let me go ahead and go back to this article real fast. All right. So now going down here, it says what the Black church really means. In the New World, Black people embraced Christianity, but synchronized the religions of our homeland with the religion of our oppressors. According to a 2014 PEW Research Center study, 79% of African Americans identify as Christian. This is commonly seen in island nations like Haiti, Cuba, and as well as in Central and South American countries like Brazil. Here, Christianity has been combined with indigenous or African traditional religion. Some forms include Lukumi, Santeria, Candomblé, and Vodun. Many others exist without name, but just because they don't have names, it doesn't mean they aren't significant. Many of these traditions include music, specifically drums, tambourines, hand clapping, stomping, and shouting. The presence of these signature elements in Black American religious service is distinctively African. And that's very so true. That's very so true because you can see that a lot when you go into these Black churches. Although there's these Black churches that claim that they're not into the African culture, African spirituality, woo, but they have incorporated some of those African principles, such as clapping hands and jumping up and down, having the so-called Holy Ghost, speaking in tongue, praise dancing. All of that derives from the African tradition. So some of those African tradition is incorporated in the Black churches, but many of them are unconsciously aware. And there are those of them that are aware, those who have really studied African history, African culture. They are aware and they know that. So you can see those similar principles. Next time you go to a church, right? Watch what they do. And then look up some African videos. Look up somebody who practicing voodoo or Santeria or anything like that. Or look up any African tribe and see how they go about having their community gathering, their cipher. And you can see the similarities. There is some differences, but you will see the similarities. The history of El Cristo Negro is very interesting, extremely interesting. If you follow the Samarians do it in Latin America. I mean, and in Latin America, a lot of people don't know that the Latin culture embraced the Roman Catholic ideology, or many of them are Catholics. But again, for those who are in the African center concept, they take those Catholic concept and they mix those African traditions together. So that's why you got the Cannabole. So if you look at Cannabole, it's based off the Roman Catholicism with voodoo, right? Or voodoo. So you see that. You see the combination that's there. Yeah, you see a combination. So yeah. So it's a lot of similarity that's going on. But let me go ahead and go back to this article. It says services like these acted as a cornerstone of the civil rights movement and Black liberation, providing a crucial source of healing, community, and strength in the midst of unspeakable pain. These beliefs and ritual were the first line of defense in the protection of Black mental health. Okay? Now, check this out. It says, the mental health benefits of spirituality. There's no denying the mental health benefits of religion and spirituality. The National Alliance on mental illness states that spirituality also incorporates healthy practices for the mind and body, which positively influence mental health and emotional well-being. In an article in the Journal of Religion and Health, Arthur Archie Smith Jr. argued that religion and spirituality are essential to the Black experience. To ignore the religious nature of human beings while seeking to restore them to the psychic health would not only trivialize a vital mental health resource in the Black experience, Smith wrote, it would further alienate Black people from awareness of the creative and spiritual depths in which their humanity participates and upon which their total well-being ultimately depends. It says, for many Black people, and certainly for those past, total wellness depends on the roles and rituals of spiritual practice. This means that spiritual wellness is inextricably linked to mental wellness. The two practices work in tandem, not separately. All right. So it goes down here to talk about retracing the steps of Black spirituality, two women's stories. So Nicole Shawan Jr. is a former prosecutor turned multidisciplinary storyteller. She was raised in two churches, and evangelical with her paternal grandmother and Catholic mass with her maternal grandmother. She enjoyed going to both services as a kid, but things changed as she grew up. I began to question what it means to constantly be bombarded with a white Jesus, Junior said. I was really starting to question Christianity and Catholicism as not only my sexual identity was burgeoning, but also as my political identity was coming into itself. It says, as these seemingly contradictory identities emerged, Junior started drifting from the church. Stephanie Jones, LCSW, the proprietor of the mental health group Lifestyle Management Counseling, is the daughter of a pastor. She served on the usher board, led devotion, and even taught Sunday school. I've always been very much ingrained in the foundation and the system of church, John says. As I got older and really started to explore religion and spirituality for myself, that kind of disconnects you from the actual system of church. After that, John says she focused on connecting with her source. It goes down and said rediscovering spiritual and mental well-being. Mental and emotional health look different for everyone. Some ways they express can be through meditation, therapy, prayer, religion and spirituality, community, connection to your ancestry. For Junior, reconnecting all started with a dream. In my dreamscape, I'm threading water in an ocean, Junior shares. It was a bright sun out. Then in front of me, this brown skinned brother, probably the color of Hennessy, comes up in front of me, ascending from out of the water, and he starts to talk to me about who I am and where I come from. Junior researched her dream, confiding the details in people she trusts, and it led her to learn about the Yoruba people and their systems of worship. She learned the man in her dream was the non-binary Orisha or deity Olukun. I would say before I found Yoruba, before Olukun was like, come on back home. I didn't really have any mental health practices, Junior says. Instead, she processed and decompressed from her stressful career as a prosecutor by smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and running on the treadmill at the gym. It wasn't until I started to research Yoruba that I realized that yes, you do have to go to your ancestors. You have to be good with your ancestors. You have to speak to them, says Junior. You have to pray for their evolution, their enlightenment, and their progression in the spiritual realm. This was an important step for Junior to reconnect her lineage, whether it's through prayer, ancestor veneration, conversation with the creator, or meditation is always a way to support mental health and find inner peace. And it says meditation is like that closet space that you can go to, excuse me, meditation is like that closest space that you can get to having a conversation deeply with God, because you're able to really turn down the noise, turn down the distraction and everything that's going on, and just be in your own head and to try that vibration of calm. Jones explains. Meditation and personal research are just two of the tools Jones suggests for her clients. When she learned that they may have a spiritual foundation or practice, she also suggests that as another tool of cope. I know it's spaces where I can be a lot more honest about spirituality versus places where I may have to throttle back a little bit more, because in the position that I'm in, you don't want to infringe upon someone else's beliefs, Jones says. And that's a fact. You don't want to do that. All right. So now, just going further down, it says where to start. Whether you've grown up in an organized religion, embrace spiritual practice, sought out mental health support or not, it's never too late to incorporate one of all of these practices for your well-being. It's never any one thing. Recognize that it's a recipe, Jones says. You have to pull those things from your toolbox and be unapologetic and unafraid to share what's going on. You can share and connect with mental health professionals, spiritual counselors, close friends, and family, your wider community. You got to be honest with somebody, but it has to start with you being honest with yourself, Jones says, and Junior agrees. You don't have to sit on someone's couch for a year plus in order to find mental wellness, she says. It can start in your own backyard. All right. So it's the list of sources where you can go and get therapy. All right, so here's the young lady that wrote the article. Her name is Nakisha Elise Williams. Right, and it says takeaway. You may say Inshallah, Amen, Ashe, or Namaste. And Namaste means peace. That's part of the Hindu practice. You may pray to Jehovah, Jesus, Aludumare, Buddha, Vishnu, or your ancestor, or you may sit still in silent meditation. No matter what, there is help, there is hope, and there is healing in connecting to yourself, your community, and your ancestry. Regardless of the legacy of racism, the power of the human spirit can never be taken away. That's a fact. All right, so you guys want to look this article up. It's called Black Mental Health and the Power of Ritual. Um, yeah, that's a very powerful source right there. It really is very powerful. But I want to go ahead and get into these next two articles. So these next two articles is just specifically focusing on this whole concept about the strong black woman and how black women gotta be strong, etc. Now, again, it's nothing wrong with being strong. It's nothing wrong with having a powerful mind. It's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you gotta give yourself a space to be vulnerable. You gotta give yourself a space to be able to have your own peace of mind, to be able to sort out your problems. You got to give yourself that space. If you don't make time for yourself, you will break down. All that strong woman characteristic is not going to help. It's not going to last you. If you don't give yourself a space to have peace, to be able to just have time for yourself, to be able to bring about closure to your problems, if you don't make that time for yourself and you try to just hold and bottle up every little thing that's going on, you're going to destroy yourself. It's going to destroy you. You don't want to destroy your mind. You don't want to destroy your entire being, because when you destroy your mind, then everything else is going to be destroyed. Your mind is the most powerful tool there is. Your mind is the most powerful thing. You can be physically strong all you want to, but if your mind is messed up, then your physicality don't really mean much. That mind is where the power is at. If you take away that power of your mind because you're trying to compress it with all these thoughts that you have, and you're trying to internalize everything, then it's not going to be at the functional level. You're going to find yourself being dysfunctional. You're going to just lose yourself. And it's already bad that we're losing ourselves because we're currently facing a crisis, which is the pandemic, which is also affecting the economy, which a lot of people, they can't really enjoy themselves like they normally would, because there's so many regulation and rules going on, and there's places that's still not opening. There's places that's practicing social distance, or that's not letting enough people around. So now and then you got another crisis where people over here wants to get vaccinated. Then you got those who don't believe in vaccine. So it creates the conflict. And now those who don't get vaccinated, they're in serious jeopardy because their job is on the line, all because they choose not to go through the vaccination process. So it's already so much going on. So the last thing you want to do is try to bottle up every single thing and don't find any closure to it. And for me, I try to bottle up everything because I have not gained any type of closure. Meaning that, like, especially when it came down to childhood trauma, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out what took place in my childhood that caused me to be traumatized. I never got an answer. So, and sadly, I probably won't ever get an answer because there's only two people that know why I was traumatized, and those are my parents. However, one of my parents is no longer here. Okay. And then the other parent is hard to talk to. It's hard to get that person to open up. It's hard to get them to have a conversation. It's hard to get an answer. So now I am forced to deal with this trauma. I'm forced to deal with what I've been through as a child. And I cannot even get past that part of it. I get past everything else, but that part, that particular scene or that particular incident, whatever happened, whatever took place, that caused me to have that trauma, is the part that I cannot get past because there's still some answers that I'm looking for. But it seems like I'm not going to ever get it. And that's the messed up part about it. That is the messed up part. is to deal with your own childhood trauma and not being able to get any type of answers. All because the other parent don't want to tell you. And so, yeah, so that right there, it just kind of, imagine what that does to you. Imagine what that does to you. Imagine what that does to you psychologically. It makes you just go into this retrospect. You go into this retrospect and you just focusing on that past, trying to find that answer to that past as to what happened, what took place, what caused this, and just be left with no answers because now you messed up. And that's what was going on with me. I was sitting there contemplating on that part, like, okay, if I can get past the fact that I was molested, I never got over that, but I got past it. If I can get past that part, why can I not get past to a previous incident that happened before, which is the fact that the doctor discovered that I was traumatized? Why can I never get past that? When am I going to ever find the answer to that so I can bring closure to that part? And telling people to get over it and just let it go or sweep it under the rug, that's not going to help. That does not do anything for that person. That makes things worse. That makes things worse. That's the worst thing you want ever tell a person to do is get over something that is traumatic, because that's not giving them closure. They got to pretend like it doesn't bother them. And you don't want to do that. You definitely don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to tell somebody just get over it. Just let it go. It's a done deal. Just put it to the past. That's the past. That's not how it works. Because then that lets somebody know that either that other person is hiding something or they just don't care. And that's what I kind of feel like with my situation. Either somebody is hiding something from me and they're not telling me, or they just simply don't care. You don't get past it. You embrace your reality. And at a minimum, thank yourself for having a higher awareness than others. And do your best in your own personal ways of preventing others or self from. That's right. Keyword, you embrace your reality. And it's going to be a hard thing to do if you got to embrace that reality. That's a hard thing to do, embrace that part. But at some point, you have to do it. No one should be so insensitive to say, get over it. Facts. You shouldn't. No one should be insensitive to say, get over that. Because that can do the worst damage. It can do the worst damage. You're not doing any good by telling somebody get over it. Experience similar things or worse, you become the hero by saying you survived the villains. I like that. I like that. All right, so let me go ahead and show you guys some articles. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this article. Give me a second. All right, it says Journal of Spirituality and Mental Health. All right, that's where it comes from. It says the Black Superwoman in Spiritual Bypass: Black Women's Use of Religious Coping and Implication for Mental Health Professionals. And this came out in 2019, written by Janae R. Evan Harris. Janae R. Evan Harris. The Black Superwoman in Spiritual Bypass: Black Women's Use of Religious Coping and Implication for Mental Health Professionals. All right, so let me go ahead and get started right here. It says the abstract. Black Superwoman phenomenon refers to the idea that Black women should be caretakers and assume various roles and responsibility without the opportunity to be emotionally transparent and expressive. Popular media images and historical narratives reinforce and perpetuate this notion of Black women as able to assume these responsibilities without emotional release and support. Thus, Black women may seek solace from these unrealistic expectations in their faith and find purpose in serving their local church communities. This article explores the ways the BSW, which means Black Superwoman phenomenon, may intersect with religious coping practice and provides implications to respond to potential mental health consequences. It says Black Superwoman phenomenon, also referred as the strong Black woman phenomenon, is widely discussed in both popular media outlets, e.g. Essence Magazine and academic publication. The Black Superwoman is heralded for her economic, social, emotional, and spiritual independence, while simultaneously sacrificing her own well-being for the care of others. In fact, African American daughters raised by African American mothers are held to a higher standard and undertake more responsibilities than African American sons. Now, this is a fact. That is very true. That's very common and very true. That African American daughters who are raised by their Black mothers are held to higher standards than the African American sons. That's very true. But let me go ahead and continue. It is important to unpack the social and economic statuses of Black women to provide context for the perpetuation of the BSW phenomenon. 60% of Black mothers are singles and considered the primary financial provider for their families. In comparison, 20% of white single mothers are considered the breadwinner for their families, which come from the Institute for Women's Policy Research, 2016. Black women tend to earn less when compared to Black men and white men and women. The median income of Black households in the United States is $40. $40,258. My mistake. As a result, Black women tend to have more responsibility with less resources. Thus, it may be reasonable to assume that Black women would feel the need to be superheroes to survive and take care of their families. Now, in this case, Black women have no choice but to act as superheroes. If they're the only ones that's the head of household and raising the children, then that woman have no choice but to play that role as superhero. Now, let me tell you something. That superhero is a burden. It's a stress. It's very stressful, especially when you have multiple children and you got to work multiple jobs, two jobs to take care of three or four children or more. And I don't want to hear this foolishness about, well, the black woman always put the black man out and this, that, and other. That may be true in some cases. In some cases, there are women that do put the men out and bring the problems on themselves, especially if the man is doing what he needs to do to take care of the family, but you put him out because of whatever reason, whatever little petty reason that you may have. But let's look at those who was put in a position to become a single parent because the father walks out on the family and chooses not to take care of his responsibility. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. We don't want to talk about how oftentimes you got these fathers that walk out on their family because they don't want the responsibility of taking care of their children, or because they were in a primary relationship and this woman happened to be the side chick, and this man don't want to have anything to do with her or the kid. Or let's look at the fact that you got a number of men that are incarcerated, or a number of men that are dead. See, we don't look at these things, and this is where the bias come in. We want to just focus on those women who put their boyfriends or husband out the house because of some petty argument they have or some disagreements they have. So that woman puts him out the house and he doesn't want to be bothered. See, that's just being one-sided, and that's using confirmation bias. If you're going to look at the problem, you got to look at it as a whole. You can't just use that as a way to support your argument, because now you're using propaganda and you're using confirmation bias. I did it for 12 years straight, alone 24/7, 365 days, just me and 3 kids. Okay, Brother Vyasa, and you happen to be one of the few men that happen to be a single parent. You happen to be one of the few. And it's not very common. And I give you, first of all, I give you salute for that. Just, by you taking care of your responsibility as a father. Because you are one of the few men who are a single parent. You are one of the few men. Do you know how many men refuse to become single parents? You don't find a lot of men in your position being single parents. You know why? Because men then refuse to be single parents. Men then refuse to take on their responsibility. They would rather for the woman to take care of all the kids, and while they go run out and do whatever. Not many men would take on that responsibility to become single parents. But in your case, you had to become the single parent. You took on that responsibility. And other men that's in your position had to. So, like I said, you are one of the few men out there that are single parents. You are one of the few men. A vast majority of them refuse to do so. A vast majority of them refuse to be single parents. Man, listen. It says, I experience help from society and social norms. In other words, the idea is the mom job to take the kids to the doctor. You got to work, Vyasa. Let me read that part again. You said, in other words, the idea is the mom job to to take the kids to the doctor. You go to work, Vyasa. Keyword said the social norms. The social norms. You said the help from society and social norm. What they tell you, it's the mom's job to take the kids to the doctor. You go to work. That's the stereotype. The stereotype is everything got to be placed on the mother. She gave birth to them. Now she got to be the caretaker. Now she got to be the financial provider. She got to go do this, go do that. The only thing daddy got to do is work and come home and make sure he has dinner on the table. That's it. This is how this society thinks. For the most part, it ain't no coexisting. It ain't no men and women should work together and both take on equal responsibility when it comes to the children. It's just the mother stay at home and raise the kids and take the kids to the doctor and take them to the park and take them to the daycare and do this and whoopty-whoopty-woo while the father just go to work. That's how a lot of people think that way, sadly. But then you got those who work together, who work as a team, because it takes two to make a baby. Now it takes those two to work together as a family to bring about the family unit, to bring about some form of structure, to bring about the coexisting. It takes two to co-parent. And then you put on adding in autism, it really got thick quick. That could be stressful. If you got a child that has some type of disorder, that's very stressful as a parent in general. So if your child has any type of disorder or any type of disease, imagine the amount of stress that you got to deal with. I don't have children of my own, but I got nieces and nephews. Okay. I got siblings who got children. And just seeing what they going through, it's like, whoa, that's a burden right there. Somebody said, I was also a single father from 6 months to 6. And my daughter also had a learning disability and moderate hearing loss. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything's okay with her. I hope everything's okay. But see, it's just a lot of the responsibility. But see, again, all this is placed on the woman. And oh, don't get me started on the blame game. Here comes the blame game. If anything goes wrong with the Black community, guess who get most of the blame about the problems in the Black community? Guess who gets the blame for most of the problem in the Black community? Black women. That's great, Brother Centavo. I'm glad that she's doing well, and I'm glad that she's a mother. Shout out to her. But yeah, guess who get the blame for the problems that goes on in the Black community? Guess who gets the blame? Guess who get the finger pointed at them? Black women. Black women get blamed for a lot of things. And if that don't add on to the stress and mental health crisis that's going on with Black women, then I don't know what to tell you. Black women get blamed for a lot of shit. Oh, I done seen it. I done read it. I done had conversations. It's ridiculous. Black women get blamed for the gun violence because of the fact that she's the single mother and that her son running the streets and become violent. But forget the fact that even if you have a two-parent household, right, that child still more than likely is going to go out there and get caught up in something. So forget the fact. But once again, here's the confirmation bias. Because the black woman, let's say she a single parent and she raising multiple children and her children get caught up in some shit, the blame go back on her. If her child gets suspended from school, the blame goes back on her. When it comes down to relationship problems, the blame goes back on the black woman. I done seen it from from individuals who blame the black woman for the reason why there is crisis in the relationship. Now, do I say that women should take accountability? Yes, women should take certain accountabilities for their actions, but let's not use confirmation bias and say that everything is the woman's fault. The divorce, oh, that's the black woman's fault. And I do you another one. And this is one of the reasons why I don't deal with a lot of those who are liberals. I never forget, I had a guy that came on my post a long time ago, and he said some shit that really had me going up the wall. This clown came on my post, said that black women are at fault. Black women are at fault because there are men who choose to be on the down low because of black women. How's that black women's fault? Because you got black men choose to be on the down low. Or black men can't come out the closet and express their sexuality because of black women. That's a bunch of bullshit. So it comes from those who might be conservatives, those who might be liberal. The blame game goes on and on. So any problem that goes on in the black community, it always falls back on the woman. I guess because the woman is supposed to be the first teacher. I guess because the woman's supposed to be, no nation's supposed to rise higher than this woman. So because you're the first teacher, anything that goes wrong is totally your fault. So whatever your child is doing, or whatever your son or daughter is doing out there in the street, it is your fault. Imagine that shit. Any crime that's taking place, any violence, pregnancy, whatever, it is the woman's fault. Automatically, it's her fault. So when I tell you the mental crisis go beyond relationship and beauty and looks, it goes beyond that. It goes to the blame game. And don't get me started on the misogyny, the sexism, all of that. That does a damage. That does the damage. It is the, man, listen. We in-depth study on the tactics used to keep black families from uniting immediately after slavery, because there is enough to study. Then compare that to modern times, just this study alone. And it says, and then also you put the phrase mama's baby, daddy maybe goes back to that era and was used to prevent black males from claiming their rightful place as fathers numerous times, to the point it became a social norm. I'm glad that you brought that up. Because, and then I even hear it. I hear some of the, and I don't want to make this about a relationship thing, but I hear some of the most foolish things that comes out of people's mouth. And one of the most dumbest shit I ever hear is a man saying that, oh, I can't date a woman that got kids. but you got kids yourself. And these are the ones that have kids themselves. You have kids yourself, but you can't date a woman that got kids. But you expect for a woman to date you as long as you got kids, but she can't have kids. What? What? I mean, what? What? That doesn't. So now the woman has no chance. She has little to zero chances of finding a man that want to be with her because she got children. I'm not getting it. So if she got 3 or 4 kids, she done, and regardless, is she doing what she's supposed to? She taking care of her business. She making sure that the kids are provided for. She raising them to the best of her ability. But the thing is, I don't want to date her because she got kids. I'm not taking care of another man's kids. But if you got kids and you got a single woman who don't have any children, and if she say the same thing, that I don't want to date a man who got kids because she don't want to raise another woman's kids, then it becomes a problem. I'm not, but again, I'm kind of getting off the course of the subject. But this is one of the problems that women face, because now it's like, okay, what's my chances of getting into another relationship and starting all over again and improving myself without having to worry about a man telling me that he doesn't want to be with me because I have children with another man or multiple men. Or I heard some shit like, if she done had kids with multiple men, she for the streets. What kind of shit is that? So is there any room for the woman to improve and to do better? Or is that going to be continued to be used as the argument, as an argument against her as far as her livelihood is concerned? Because of the fact that she has children with multiple men or had children with another man, is that going to be used against her every time? So where's the room for improvement? Where's the room for improvement for women who have lived a lifestyle at one point in time, as far as they were prostituting or they were strippers? So how can they better themselves, improve their life, without have to worry about the fact that that's going to be used against them every time? But society say that we got to accept the man if he was out there selling dope, prostituting women, or if one point in time he was sleeping with another man, we got to accept him. We got to take him back. We got to accept him. But let that woman be the prostitute. Let the woman be the stripper. And she done transformed her whole entire life because she found spirituality. She got herself cleansed. She got in some type of seminar or group, and she wants to do better. But all of a sudden, her chances of finding a decent man is very slim, all because of what she done did. All because she was a prostitute at one point in time. Regardless of the fact that her background is clean, she ain't got no STDs, she ain't got no HIV, no AIDS, no nothing. But she can't find no man. Or let's just say she's just a single woman with just no kids at all, just because. She's just a single woman with no kids. Oh, well, the reason why you single because don't nobody want you because you crazy as hell. Oh, the reason why you single because whoopty whoopty whoop, because you're not attractive enough, or whatever the case may be. Now, what's her chances of finding a relationship? Because she don't meet up to the expectation. She don't meet up to the standard. So now she don't meet up to that standard, or she's not this high value woman, as Kevin Samuel like to say. She's not high value. Oh, she don't look high value. Oh, because now she don't meet up to that standard. And the question I have to ask, since I'm on the subject about high value women, to those men that talk this high value stuff, what is the standard of high value women? What do you look for in a woman? What makes a woman high value? Is she high value based on her finances, or is it based on her morals, or is it a combination of both? What makes a person high value? Based on their finances, based on their morals, or the combination of both? And what standard are you predicated upon? What standard are you predicated upon? Are you predicated upon the standard of the Western society? Are you basing it upon that African principle, the African culture? What standard are you basing upon? Because imagine you have some, and I don't want to call him a scumbag, but imagine you have some dude like Kevin Samuel tell you that you gotta rate yourself between 1 and 10, and he tells you that you can't use 7 as a number, whatever the case may be, and you less than a 7, you not above a 7, you less than a 7. Imagine what that does to you. Now, I don't pay attention to that because that kind of stuff makes me sick. It makes me mad. So I don't really entertain him that much, but imagine just hearing that shit. You as a woman, you already got low self-esteem. You already feel some kind of way about yourself. You feel like you don't have enough value. So now you got this cat come along tell you that you're less than a 7, and he ain't even all of that. He ain't even all that. I mean, I'm just saying that bruh ain't even all that. But he tell you that you less than a 7. And you're not attractive enough. You're not qualified enough. Like, how do you know how other men think? How you know that how that other man feel? Maybe you may feel that this woman is not qualified enough, but you can't speak for every other man. You can't say that that's how every man feels, because that's how you feel. So now you kind of ruin her chance of finding somebody. Now she got to second guess herself. Well, damn, am I worth it? What's my purpose of being here? But she got put on that front like, okay, everything's fine. Everything's okay. I'm gonna be all right. It's whatever. But deep down, she feel like, damn, if somebody tell me that I'm less than a 7, how does that make me feel? I feel like I'm not. That makes you feel like you're unworthy. So now she feels like she's unworthy, that nobody wants her. And some of the women that come on his show, I see them and it's like, dang, y'all really got low self-esteem to come on this man's show, because a woman who don't have that type of self-esteem, who have a very high self-esteem and who's very happy with herself, she don't need somebody like Kevin Samuel to rate her and tell her what she's less than the average or above average or whatever. She don't need that, because she already knows herself. So you mostly deal with women that have low self-esteem and that need to feel some type of validation. And it doesn't do them enough, because guess what? It already makes them feel less. They already feel bad about themselves. So now they feel a lot less because they don't meet the standard. They don't meet this criteria. Whatever this criteria this person have, I don't know what standard this person is basing off of, European standards or African American standards. I don't know what that person is basing off of. Okay. He put, I want to do temporary foster care and have it attached to a school that way runaways would at least get an education, for example. Oh, that would be great. I think the elders had it together compared to us. I get we always had our party folks, but I still feel the previous generation had a better view of family values than us, specifically black folks. Yeah, because we're in a generation of the hip hop culture. So we let, I mean, nothing wrong with hip hop. I'm all for hip hop. I grew up in the hip hop golden era and all of that stuff. But we in the culture where we don't have that solid foundation. It's kind of like it's just too liberal. People just run around doing whatever. It's no foundation. It's no cultural standards. It's a cultural shift. Everybody want to be liberal, and that brings about the confusion, especially those who was brought up in another era, in another time period. A live dog is better than a dead lion. I hear that. High value and good character has no gender. Absolutely. High value doesn't always pertain to looks or money. Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Now let me get back to this article. Okay. So it says, where did I stop at before I start talking? Okay, it says it is important to unpack the social and economic statuses of black women to provide context for the perpetuation of the BSW phenomenon. 60% of black mothers are single and considered the primary financial providers for their families. In comparison, 20% of white single mothers are considered the breadwinner for their families. Black women tend to earn less when compared to black men and white men and women. The median income of black household in the United States is $40,258. As a result, black women tend to have more responsibility with less resources. Thus, it may be reasonable to assume that black women would feel the need to be superheroes to survive and take care of their families. And it says, in addition to the BSW, black women are subject to a number of other stereotypes, including Jezebel, Mammy, and angry black woman. Generally, the Jezebel, Mammy, and angry black woman stereotypes are considered overtly negative and offensive. Although the SBW or the BSW stereotype may seem more complimentary, it implies that black women are responsible for the care of others and are at the same time totally self-reliant. It does not give them the space to be vulnerable with themselves or others. In fact, their vulnerability or any admission of struggle could be viewed negatively, calling into question their competence and strength. The implication of the BSW phenomena are far-reaching in regards to mental health. Black women are often more susceptible to emotional and psychological distress. However, they are not likely to seek formal support through mental health treatment services. Rather than seeking support from counselors, black women are more likely to engage in religious coping practice and to find meaning through their work in faith communities. While the BSW phenomenon is being explored within various familial, career, and community contexts, one area that warrants more focused attention is the intersection of black women's spirituality and the BSW phenomenon. Moreover, researchers, scholars, and practitioners need to look more closely into the impact these intersections have on black women's mental health. In particular, black Christian women have a long-standing historical role as the backbone of the black church. Although religious coping can be a helpful protective mechanism, there are times when these practices might be maladaptive. Spiritual bypass is an example of potentially emotionally detrimental coping. In fact, many of the markers of spiritual bypass mimic the characteristic demonstrated by the BSW. Thus, this article focuses on the ways in which this phenomenon parallels spiritual bypass manifests in the black church communities impact black women, health, mental health. Furthermore, this subject matter has implication for mental health professionals working with black Christian women who are active in their churches. All right, and I'm just going to stop right here. So I'm just gonna put out there. Another reason why a lot of women go to the churches and spirituality because it's a lot cheaper. A lot of them cannot afford to go to therapy. And then there are those who don't have insurance. And some insurance do not cover mental health very well. Some insurance do not cover everything. So that means that if they do cover something, they might cover maybe 20%, maybe 10%, and you're left with paying the rest of the bill. So when you have to pay the rest of the bill, imagine that. So, and then some people don't have the time to actually go to therapy. So now their therapy is either turned to their friends or a family member, or either going to the religious organization, spiritual organization, or partying. But even people know that partying is not always the best thing to do, because that's when you fall into the trap. And when you fall into that trap, you find yourself entangled in another predicament. So you better off going into some type of seminar or some type of religious gathering or spiritual gathering. Not saying that things don't happen there, but still you have less chance of worrying about getting caught up in a trap than just being out partying, drinking, and smoking all the damn time. You know what I'm saying? So, and another thing I want to talk about music. Music has always been very, very therapeutic for us. So for us women, a lot of times when we under stress, we like to listen to soft music. We like listen to R&B. We like to listen to meditation music. We like to listen to jazz, blues, somewhere like that. Or either for those who like house music, like myself, I like house music. We listen to those type of things because it keeps our mind calm. So if you notice, when you read, they suggest that people suggest that it's best to go ahead and listen to classical music or jazz or instrumental, because it helps you to stay focused better. So a lot of time women like to listen to music that would just help them to stay focused, calm their nerves. So when they come home from work and take their bubble bath and pour them a glass of wine, they like to sit back and listen to something very soft and calm. Because again, that eases the nerve. It calms the nerves. It calms the nerves a lot. So that's that article. If you guys want to check out this article, I'm not going to go any more into this because I'm trying to hurry up and get up off of here. But it's called a Journal of Spirituality and Mental Health. All right. And it's under Taylor and Francis Group. So you can find it on Taylor, and what is the website is www.tnfonline.com. www.tnfonline.com. All right. Let me go ahead and go on to the next article. So this next article is pretty much saying something very similar to the previous article, but it's just except that it's written by a different author or a different editor. So this article is Women in Therapy. Again, this can be found on www.tnfonline.com. It's called Embodying Strength, the Origin, Representation, and Socialization of the Strong Black Woman Ideal and Effects on Black Women's Mental Health by Leisha Carter and Amerigo Rossi. And this came out in 2019. All right. So now it goes into the different stereotypes and talk about the strong Black woman, etc. Let's see what we can find in this article. Okay, it says strength, black women health. The embodiment of strength is neither all good nor bad with historical and contemporary representation of strength, framing how strength is situated with black communities for women. As such, we know being strong is a form of physical and psychological resilience, allowing black women to survive historic traumas, per- preserving their self, family, and communities. However, strength as a monolith can be a damaging idea, and within the context of Black women's strength, a stereotype of Black women's strength as emotionless, thick, self sacrificing, and caretaking provides little flexibility for a healthy form of strength to include boundaries, self care, expression of sadness, depression, and anxiety, which can lead to chronic illness. And it says the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, Healthy People 2020 initiative address health equity and eliminate health disparity, which comes from the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, ND. Healthy People 2020 provides national objectives to improve the health of all Americans. This initiative encourages community collaboration, helps individuals make informed health decisions, and provides a framework to assess the effect of prevention activities. Currently, Black women have a significantly elevated risk of developing chronic disease, leading to poor health, reduced life expectancy, and fewer years of being designated free of activity limitation. Black women are approximately 87% more likely to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes than white women. And diabetes is something very serious in our community. And 48% more likely to have cardiovascular disease, which leads to heart failure, heart attacks, etc. Compared to white women, black women have significantly higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and strokes and heart disease. Although black and white women have, although black and white women have comparable rates of mental illness incidence, 16.8 versus 19% respectively, Black women are about half as likely to receive mental health services, indicating different coping mechanism and or being understood. Then it goes on to say chronic stress coping behaviors may play a role in health disparity among Black women. Black women may react to stress with increased self reliance, emotional suppressions, and heightened caregiving, which negatively impacts health behaviors. Considering the health disparity between Black and white women and the connection between stress coping and physical health, understand the connection between enacting the superwoman ideal stereotype and mental health is important for mental health providers because treatment of chronic disease such as heart disease and diabetes accounts for 86% of the health care costs in America. Centers for Disease Control and Health Promotion 2016, the development of effective chronic disease prevention programs for Black women is necessary to improve health equity and reduce disparities. Now, let me go ahead and talk about this last part. When there is mental health crisis, it affects, when there is mental health crisis, there is going to be eating disorder. When there's mental health crisis, there's going to be eating disorder. Why do I say that? Because as women, we tend to have eating disorder. And we use food as a comfort to deal with our depression, our stress, anxiety, etc. So a lot of times we like to gravitate to junk food, whether it be sweets. We like to eat stuff that might have too much sodium, which will give us high blood pressure. We cope to a lot of these things because we use food as a comfort, right? And then, or we might not eat as much. We might just sit around, just lay around the house, go to sleep a lot. Some of us like to sleep throughout the day. Some of us just skip a meal because we stressing too much, and that's those things can not only affect us mentally, but physically as well. So that's why mental health is more important, because you don't want to affect your physical health. Because if you affect your physical health, then you decline altogether. So you gotta understand the effects, how it trickle down. It starts from the mental and it goes down to the physical. So if you don't protect the mental, then you won't be able to protect the physical. You won't be able to manage the physical part of you, because all of that is in connection with each other. But that's all I had to say for tonight. And I have a book up here. It's called The Black Women's Mental Health. All right. Black Women's Mental Health. Balance, Strength, and Vulnerability, edited by Stephanie Y. Evans, Kanika Bell, and Nsinga K. Burton. Again, Stephanie Y. Evans, Kanika Bell, and Nsinga K. Burton. So the name of the book is titled Black Women's Mental Health, Balancing Strength and Vulnerability. Okay. And this book was written, it came out from State University of New York, which is known as Sunny Press. And this book was written in 2017. Okay, so if you guys want to check this book out, you can just look up Black Women's Mental Health, type it in, and you could be able to find it online. You can probably find it on Amazon. You can probably find it on Barnes and Noble. Just type in on Amazon and you can get the book for yourself. Okay. You can get the PDF, ebook, etc. All right, so with that being said, that's all that I have for tonight. So this kind of helped me feel a little bit better, because I was able to do this video and actually get it out the way. And I appreciate you guys that's in the chat that had participated. Thank you so much, as usual. You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you for your commentaries. I really appreciate that, especially Brother Vayasa. I really appreciate that. Shout out to you. Also, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. If you want to share this video, you're more than welcome to do so. Recommend this channel. Hit the notification bell, all that great stuff. So until next time, you guys, please take it easy. Please be careful during this pandemic. If you got to get vaccinated, do what you have to do. And also take care of your mental health, because your health is your wealth. Your health is your wealth. Please take care of it. All right. All right, then y'all take it easy. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm out. Peace.